And you're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council on Thursday, the 2nd of July 2026. My name is Councillor Ron Pratt and I am the Chairperson of the Council. Members, it's a warm night and if members want to remove their jackets or cardigans, please do so. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table as this could create interference with the cameras and live stream. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We do not have any fire alarm testing scheduled for today. However, we may have periodic fire alarms and I remind members to ensure they tap out with their pass when leaving the council offices tonight. If you hear the fire alarm, please exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Item 2 is apologies for absence. Ms Bird, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chairman, thank you very much. Apologies been received from Councillor Bound, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Lagan, Councillor Lay, Councillor Swindle, Councillor White and Councillor Whiffin. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 3 is the minutes for the 14th of May 2026. It is recommended that the minutes of the statutory annual council meeting held on the 14th of May 2026, found on pages 7 to 30, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stilts. Is that agreed by assent, members? Thank you very much.
Councillor Siddle-Norman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Siddle-Norman, I didn't see you.
I think there's a discrepancy on these. May I just...
Please, Councillor Siddle-Norman.
Page 13, I think that at the bottom on line 16, it should be up in the Joint Standards Committee, and it should be Councillors Bell and Lay. I might be wrong, but it's...
Ms Bird, did you hear that?
Yes, Chairman, I'm just checking.
Thank you.
The table on page 14 does say Councillors Bell and Lay.
We're talking about page 13, I think.
Yeah.
Joint Standards Committee.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, it says it there.
I mean, that shows Councillors Lay and Councillor Bell that were appointed to Joint Standards.
Yeah, but not Councillors Bell and S.Y. You're not talking about it. She's talking about it. No, we're talking about the wrong ones. I'm sorry. It says a Joint Standards Committee, and Councillor Siddle proposed Councillor Lay, and down at the on the right at the bottom it says it was therefore agreed that Councillor Bell and White. I think.
Chairman, that's under the investigating and disciplinary bullet point. I think you'll find, Chairman. There's 3 bullet points on that page.
Okay.
The first one is Joint Standards, and it says it was therefore agreed Councillor Bell and Lay were appointed. The second one is investigating and disciplinary, and it says Councillors Bell and Lay. And then the third one is investigating and disciplinary panel, and it says Bell and White. And when you scroll down through onto the tables, which are on the following page, page 15, it does show Councillors Bell and Lay on Joint Standards, Councillors Bell and Lay on investigating and disciplinary, and then on the investigatory and disciplinary panel, it shows Councillor White and Councillor, sorry, I've lost that one. Bell, yes.
So are you content?
Sorry?
you content?
Are you
Yes, I'm
content?
content if it's worked, right.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, Chairman, under the second bullet point for investigating and disciplinary committee, the last sentence is actually that it was therefore agreed that councillors Bell and Lay were appointed to the Joint Standards Committee.
Okay.
I think it's a pace too far.
And it says it on the third one as well, the third bullet point.
I'm struggling
We'll
to...
get that
So it
changed.
does.
Chairman, I can get that updated.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman.
Sorry about
Well
that.
read.
Apologies.
Councillor Hayward.
Are we sure that's right? Because I'm just reading that. It says Councillor Stilts proposed that Councillor Una Siddle Norman be nominated as one of the non-aligned councillors on the investigating panel. This proposal was duly seconded. Then you've got Councillor Morgan proposed Councillor White, and it was therefore agreed that Councillor Bell and White should be appointed. So you've got, it's not right, because you've got Siddle Norman, and then you've got Councillor White, and at the bottom it says they've agreed that Councillor Bell and Councillor White were appointed. Can you see that?
Joint Standards Committee, that's...
Chairman, that investigating and disciplinary panel is incorrect. I will get that corrected. It should be Councillor Siddle Norman and Councillor White. For the investigating and disciplinary panel, I will get that updated.
So with that change, members, are we content? All agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are also reminded that they are required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. Councillor Barrow-Cook.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare another registrable interest that I'm on the Visit Essex Advisory Board, Chair of the Maldon District Tourism Group and the Saltmarsh Coast Tourism CIC in relation to item 17, page 169, just because I've been working with the cultural engine.
I'm sure that's noted, Ms Bird, yeah?
Yes, Chairman, I've got that. Thank you.
Councillor Durham.
Yeah, on that basis, Chairman, I have a non-pecuniary interest as I am a member of the Arts Council South East Board.
Thank you. Any other members? Item 5, public questions. I'm told there are none. 6, Chairman's announcements. I thought I'd keep you informed as to how busy the Chairman gets. And they're very nice gigs, I have to say. We are well received. The Mayor of Chelmsford invited me to the civic service in Chelmsford Cathedral. The new appointed Susie Dutton, the High Sheriff, had a garden party. And the Armed Forces Parade on Sunday, and also the launch of the health initiative, Street Tag. I hope everybody has downloaded the app, because we could have a Maldon District Council team and we could get the opportunity of winning £150, I was told yesterday. But I'd also like to thank the Vice Chairman. She has been such a support. She's been to a couple of the things with me, and I think it's working very well. Thank you, Jeanette. It won't be so long next time. 7-minute book to consider any recommendations brought forward from committees as detailed on the agenda, and 7A is the PG&A committee on the 4th of June 2026. We will move to the minutes of the Performance, Governance and Audit Committee, and I call on Councillor Stamp to present them. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You didn't mention you came all the way to Mayland.
Well, I did, but...
Oh, did you? I didn't hear you say it. Anyway, you did, and it's very nice to see you on our side of the district. I rise to put the recommendation at PG&A Audit Committee from the 4th of June. The recommendation was, members, that the Council Constitution Scheme of Delegation to Officers Environmental Health Powers and Duties be updated. The recommendation was that the Renters' Rights Act 2026 be included within the list of legislation and statutory provisions in the scheme of delegation and delegated to the Director of Neighbourhood Services and Communities, together with the ability of the Director to authorise appropriate officers to undertake the new powers and duties on behalf of the council. I so propose. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Matthew Neal. Members, do we agree that at full council that it's a brilliant renters bill, and I think it's well overdue, and we as a committee really supported this, so I hope members do as well.
Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Yeah, I can see. There's no sliding in quietly, Councillor Passenger. Welcome. Tara, Councillor Passenger has joined us.
Thank you, Chairman.
7B, Strategy and Resources on the 11th of June 2026, pages 31 to 140. We move to the minutes of the Strategy and Resources Committee held on the 11th of June. I call on Councillor Fittock to present them. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I present the recommendation coming forward from the Strategy and Resources Committee on 11th of June 2026 for consideration by the Council. With regard to Essex Coastal Recreation Disturbance Avoidance and Mitigation Strategy Review, it's recommended at Little 1 that the revised and updated Essex Coast Recreational Disturbance Avoidance Mitigation Strategy, RAMS 2026, and tariff attached Appendix 1 be approved, superseding the current RAMS 2018 to 2038. And Little 2, that the new RAMS tariff of £500 per new dwelling or qualifying unit, index links and exclusive of 5% admin fee, be applied to new development from 1st of August 2026, and to note that the current fee of £175.55 and benchmarks as low compared to tariffs nationally. While the new fee is mid-range, the new fee includes increased expectations of eligibility housing units and is considered not just for the implementation period but also for the maintenance period. Little 3, that the adopted Essex Coast RAMS Supplementary Planning Document SPD be revoked, noting that its content is no longer aligned with the updated RAMS. Little 4, that members agree in principle to replace Essex Coast RAMS SPD with an Essex Coast RAMS technical advice note, recognising that this will provide a consistent mechanism to guide decision making for local authorities with RAMS partnerships area. And Little 5, that the authority be delegated to the Director of Place Planning and Growth in consultation with the Planning Policy Working Group to agree and publish the technical advice note once draft is complete. Do I have a seconder, please? That's Councillor Barrell-Cook. Does anyone want to speak on the matter? No. Can we agree that, members?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Terry.
And we have a second
There's a pay policy.
a recommendation, Pay Policy 2026-2027. It's recommended that the 2026-27 Pay Policy Statement attached, Appendix 2, be approved. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan. Can we agree that by said members?
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Fittock. Item 8 is minutes of the meetings of the council. I propose that these are noted and agreed by assent. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you. And the star of the show this evening, item 9. Pray be silence for the leader of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Chairman, members and residents of Maldon District. Tonight, I wish to set out before you my priorities for the year ahead. My starting point in identifying what these priorities are, what matters most to our residents, communities, businesses and the environment, has been the Council's corporate plan. So they're not really my priorities, but our priorities. We should all own them. Many of you will be familiar with the phrase, "May you live in interesting times." And I'm sure that you'll also be aware that far from being a benign exhortation, it is in reality meant to be a curse. Interesting times are likely to be times of trouble and turmoil. The local government reorganisation process has begun, which on present plans will see this district council pass into history in April 2028. However, this is being challenged by the reform-led Essex County Council, and we have yet to learn what view the next occupant of number 10 Downing Street will have on the process. Whatever subsequently transpires, there can be no doubt that this coming year will therefore be one of change. But I believe that it can also be one of opportunity, and I see it as my responsibility to lead a council that will provide steady, visible and practical governance that will protect and enhance the identity of the Maldon district and continue to deliver outcomes that will seek to preserve and enhance our residents' quality of life. Put simply, I will look to provide strong leadership through this time of change, to stand up for our district and to deliver for residents. To achieve these aims, I fully commit myself to working collaboratively across all political groups and non-aligned members of this council. This is a Conservative-led administration, but I assure you our rosettes have been put away, and all in the group believe that collaboration between members is fundamental to delivering the best outcomes for our residents. By working together across the political spectrum, with respect and a shared focus on local priorities, I believe that we can deliver improvements for the communities that we all serve. The government has approved the 5 unitary authority model for local government reorganisation in Greater Essex, which this council supported, and we will continue to provide strong leadership to deliver this. We will also work constructively with partners across Mid-Essex and champion the needs, strengths and identity of our district. We will maintain our excellent relationships with town and parish councils, support community empowerment and help local people and organisations build resilience. Change should not mean losing local connection. It should mean finding better ways to work together. Residents rightly expect us to balance the budget, use public money carefully, and be transparent about the decisions we make. I wish to work closely with the Finance Members Working Group, the Chairs of Strategy and Resources, and Performance Government and Audit to adopt a prudent approach to our finances and, whilst maintaining our high level of service to residents, will do what I can to minimise the burden on council tax and business rate payers, as well as reviewing car park charges. Because the immediate future is uncertain, I believe we should be careful about our use of the reserves and not fritter them away, or worse still, go into debt pursuing implausible projects. We look to support our communities by seeking to deliver health initiatives that promote good physical and mental well-being, central to a good quality of life. We will continue to work with the NHS and our partners to support prevention, early intervention, strengthen volunteering and community networks, and help communities support one another. We will also lobby for government funding to create a possible neighbourhood health centre in the heart of the district at St Peter's. Planning plays a vital role in investing in our district, helping us to deliver sustainable growth, protect the qualities that make our communities unique, and provide the homes, jobs and infrastructure that residents need. As regards infrastructure, we must focus on lobbying partners to improve it within the district, making it more sustainable and accessible. I am pleased to be able to report that we have now received draft work from our planning consultants, which will place the council in a strong position to consider commencing work on a new local plan later this year. Members will, of course, have the opportunity to make a formal decision on this matter at full council in September, but the preparatory work undertaken to date means that we are well placed to move forward should that decision be taken. We are awaiting the publication of an updated national planning policy, expected later this year, which will help shape the framework in which we prepare our local plan and make planning decisions. Progressing the evidence-based and preparatory work for a new local plan ensures that valuable local knowledge, community priorities, and technical evidence ensures that local communities have a strong voice in shaping the places where they live, work, and invest. However, we need to be honest with each other and with our residents if we are not to be at the mercy of speculative developments, or, worse still, lose our planning rights altogether. We must regain our 5-year housing land supply as soon as possible, and that can only be achieved by granting planning permissions. Of course, I do not want to see our beautiful district disappear beneath concrete and asphalt, but the best way to avoid this is with a 5-year housing land supply rather than without one. As well as planning and infrastructure, we will look to grow our economy by supporting businesses, town centres, and the visitor economy, which are vital to the life of the district. Maldon District is a fantastic place to visit, invest and do business within, but we must ensure that tourism is sustainable and brings benefits to local communities. We have a unique story shaped by the coast, countryside, towns, villages, heritage and people, and we must celebrate and protect this identity. Our natural assets are part of what makes this district special. By protecting our environment, we will care for our coastline, countryside and open spaces, while promoting sustainable approaches that safeguard them for future generations. Finally, we will focus on ensuring our residents are able to access efficient, responsive and customer-focused services. We will strengthen performance and accountability and work in partnership across Essex where that helps deliver better outcomes. Together, these priorities provide a clear framework for decision-making and investment. They are driven by our corporate plan, support a shared narrative for engagement with residents and partners, and they keep our focus firmly on delivery, outcomes and accountability. Conservatism at its best is about stewardship, leaving things stronger than we found them, protecting what is valuable and making careful improvements where they are needed. And that is the approach I intend to take as leader. We will stand up for Maldon District. We will be responsible custodians of public money. We will support our communities, protect our environment, encourage enterprise and economic growth, and ensure that local voices continue to be heard throughout the reorganisation process. Above all, we will remain focused on the people we serve. Maldon District is a remarkable place, rich in history, character and community spirit. It is worth fighting for, worth preserving and worth improving for future generations. That is my commitment, and I look forward to working with the officers and all you members of this council in the coming year to deliver it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Driver, I'm sure you would like to respond. I'm told you have 15 minutes.
Chair, members, officers, residents, good evening. I want to start by thanking the leader for his remarks and for sharing them in advance of this evening's meeting. Tonight marks a significant change in the political direction of Maldon District Council. We now have a Conservative Reform administration supported by a few independents. Of course, councillors are entitled to form new political alliances. That is democracy. But those choices also deserve public scrutiny because they will determine the future direction of this council. Before turning to the proposals before us tonight, it is worth reminding ourselves where this council stood just 3 years ago. In 2023, the electorate delivered a clear message. They rejected an administration whose stewardship had left this council with weakened governance, poor customer service, damaged public confidence, and an organisation facing serious financial and operational challenges. No single political group secured overall control in 2023. And faced with that reality, councillors from across the chamber chose cooperation over confrontation. We did not always agree, but we recognised that restoring this council mattered more than political point scoring. Together, we have rebuilt financial resilience, strengthened governance, appointed a chief executive who has brought clarity and accountability, and restored confidence in the organisation. Those achievements were not the work of one political group. They were achieved because members were prepared to work together in the interests of residents. Those gains were hard won. Elections have consequences, but so do political deals. Residents rejected one way of running this council in 2023, yet tonight, many of the principal architects of that earlier period that found their way back into office through a new political arrangement. They may now sit under different political banners, but many are the same people promoting the same instincts that failed this council before. And that is why many of us view this administration with genuine concern. The issue before us is simple. Do we continue building a stronger council that invests for the future, or do we return to the short-term thinking that weakened this authority for so many years, a council with little vision? The first major decision, it would appear, of this administration gives us that answer. The leader states he wants to minimise the burden of council tax. Understand that, but that actually hides an openly touted desire to freeze council tax. At first glance, that sounds attractive. Politically, it is an easy message to sell. But good local government is not built on attractive slogans. It is built on responsible financial management. Every year, this council faces rising costs. Staff costs increase, contracts become more expensive, inflation affects virtually every service we provide. Freezing council tax does not freeze those pressures. It simply creates a growing gap between income and expenditure. And that gap can only be filled in three ways: by reducing services, by using reserves, or by finding savings that experience tells us are rarely as straightforward as politicians suggest. More importantly, a council tax freezes permanently the council tax base. The income lost is not recovered the following year. It is lost unless a future administration is prepared and able to increase council tax above inflation. That is not prudent stewardship, it is short-term politics. And who ultimately pays the price? It is not those with the greatest means, it is often the most vulnerable residents who rely most heavily on local government services. I note the leader's comments about reserves. This council has reserves which we can choose to use for the benefit of our community, or we can hand them over to the new unitary authority. Like anyone who has to manage household savings, sensible use of savings, and debt in the form of a mortgage is prudent financial planning. Closing this door tells you all you need to know about the lack of ambition of this administration. We have seen this approach before. We know where it leads. Deferred investment, services gradually weakened, assets allowed to deteriorate, problems left for someone else to solve. That is precisely the cycle this council has spent the last 3 years trying to break. And sadly, the same short-term thinking risks emerging in relation to local government reorganisation. Whatever views members previously held, councils across Essex have invested considerable time and public money examining the options. The 5 unitary proposal has now become the basis upon which government intends to proceed. Residents expect us to shape that future and secure the best possible outcome for our communities. Instead, we hear talk of judicial review and costly legal action, of delay and obfuscation from members of this administration. Judicial review is an important constitutional safeguard, not a political campaign strategy. Unless there are genuine legal grounds, pursuing expensive litigation would simply divert scarce public money away from frontline services while creating uncertainty at precisely the moment when residents and staff need clarity. Once again, I fear we are seeing political posturing rather than responsible leadership. However, opposition is not simply about saying no. The Liberal Democrats believe there is a far more positive agenda for this council. We should be working with the NHS to secure the long-term future of St Peter's. We should be developing a robust business case, exploring innovative partnerships and low-cost borrowing options to ensure that local healthcare services remain available for future generations. That's the approach that led to Braintree Hospital. We should continue strengthening our planning services so that housing growth is matched by roads, schools, healthcare and infrastructure our communities deserve, and that will take drive and energy. We should continue investing in the council's assets and seeking community benefit rather than repeating the false economies of the past. We should be supporting our high streets and local businesses, including reviewing how our parking policies can encourage visitors and strengthen the evening economy. And we should continue protecting our environment by pursuing opportunities such as Elm Park Farm and other important green spaces before these opportunities are lost. There are fundamentally 2 ways to govern a council. One is to make decisions that might be popular today, but leave someone else to deal with the consequences tomorrow. The other is to make decisions that protect services, invest in communities, and leave the council and this district stronger than you found it. Over the last 3 years, this council has largely followed the second path. Tonight, I fear we are witnessing a return to the first. So let me end by saying this. The Liberal Democrats will support proposals that genuinely benefit the residents of Maldon District. But where decisions threaten the long-term interests of our communities, weaken our finances and repeat the mistakes that this council has worked so hard to overcome, we will oppose them. But the choice before the council is not simply about a change of administration. It's about whether we continue the progress of the last 3 years or whether we return to the practices that left this authority weakened and its reputation diminished. This council should learn from its history and not repeat it. Our residents deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driver. In accordance with Procedure Rule 112, Leader, you are allowed to have a response to that, but you're going to take no longer than 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was tempted to adopt the phrase of the learned friends and say the defence rests, but I think I should point out, I'll make a couple of points. Firstly, I disagree with Councillor Driver's description of what this administration is. If it's anything, it's a Conservative with independent grouping supported by one or two reform, not the other way round. And certainly there's no question of any form of coalition or anything of that nature. I'm also disappointed that he should be harking back to history. I made it perfectly clear in a speech, and if I don't, I'll say so again. It is my aim that we will collaborate as much as possible going forward. I fully admit that the way that matters proceeded beforehand, but nevertheless, I was asked to give this council a chance to express its opinion, and I have done so. And also, I don't think the word freeze ever entered, it was ever mentioned in my speech with regards to council tax. So, but I presume that, anyway, and in fact, in terms of much of what Councillor Driver said, I believe that he will certainly find support at this side of the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Members, shall I move on to item 10? Questions in accordance with procedure of Rule 6, brackets 3, of which notice have been given, and I read here that there are none. Item 11, we move to item 11, appointment to the working group found on pages 141 and 142. Leader, I understand you introduced the report?
Yes, 1 second. So, this is agenda item 11. The purpose of the report is to appoint one member to the Strategic Housing Working Group. Following the appointment of members at the statutory annual meeting of the Council on the 14th of May 2026 to the Strategic Housing Working Group, one member of the group has confirmed they are unable to continue as a member of this group. The Strategic Housing Working Group consists of 9 members, currently being Councillors Dodsley, Durham, myself, Siddle, Spenceley, Stevens, Stilts and Thompson. The council is therefore required to nominate one member to the vacancy on this group.
Councillor Paula Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Driver. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Is that agreed by assent?
Agreed.
Thank you, members. So I move to item 12, nomination to Tollesbury Community Land Trust Steering Group. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the purpose of the report to appoint one member to the Tollesbury Community Land Trust Steering Group. The Council has been contacted by the Tollesbury Community Land Trust, who have invited one member of the Council to sit on their steering group. The Tollesbury Community Land Trust proposes to establish a community land trust to enable the previous affordable housing and other assets for the local community. Oh, sorry, I presume that means the provisions of affordable housing and other assets to the local community group. The aim of the steering group is to explore the viability of the formation of a community land trust, and if viable, to establish a community land trust, and the draft terms of reference for the steering group are detailed at Appendix 1. At the statutory annual meeting in November 2020, to enable member visibility, it was resolved that where papers are not private and confidential and subject to agreement by the relevant bodies, they will be stored on the central Mod.Gov library for all members to access. And the appointed member representative is asked to use the following fresh service to submit papers. So the recommendations are that one member is appointed to the Tollesbury Community Land Trust Steering Group, and that the member appointed as representative to the Tollesbury Community Land Trust Steering Group is responsible for sharing minutes of any meetings attended, as detailed below on the Mod.Gov library.
Councillor Siddle.
Yes, I nominate Councillor Stevens.
Seconded by Councillor Stilts. Members, that's proposed and seconded. Are we all agreed by assent?
Agreed.
So we're on item 12. done that. Sorry, I skipped over to see where we were up to. Item 13. This is the Devolution and Local Government Reorganisation. Chief Executive, did you said you were going to pass this over, or did you want to speak on it first?
Thank you, Chairman. As I've been away for a couple of weeks, I know our Director of Strategy and Improvement, Ms. Cable, has drafted a note for members, so I will hand over to Leander. Thank you.
Thank you. The Government has confirmed that Greater Essex has passed the legal test and that devolution and work towards establishing a mayoral combined county authority can proceed. This decision follows the 8-week consultation that was held between February and April 2025. The Secretary of State confirmed the Government's decision to establish the 5 new unitary authorities in March 2026, and the second legislation needed to officially abolish the current 15 councils and establish a new, which is being drafted and scheduled to go to Parliament later in the autumn. In the meantime, officers are developing a programme of delivery that can be put in place to ensure safe and legal councils are established for April 2028. On the 5th of June, the leaders of Chelmsford, Maldon and Brentwood councils met to discuss local government reorganisation and how we can work together and engage with members at County Hall. The same day, key programme team officers gathered and also joined by an Essex County Council representative to establish the Mid-Essex Programme Management Office and identify activity that can be stepped up. On the 15th of June, an all-Essex Chief Executive meeting agreed to an Essex system-wide programme delivery alongside the Mid-Essex and other unitary PR arrangements. Detailed work is now being undertaken, which includes working with services to look at how we amalgamate areas that are important for safe and legal unitary authorities. Members will have seen that Essex County Council's new political administration is challenging the Government's decision, but we continue on the timelines as set out so that momentum is not lost. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Cable. Are there any questions? Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you. I think the leader made comment that we're in very fast-changing environment. Clearly, there's likely to be a new Prime Minister sooner rather than later. We've already seen his wish to have more mayors and to give mayors more power. However, as Ms. Cable has said, there are now actually 16 councils who are threatening to take a judicial review on the government's LGR. It also transpires, and I have clarified this with somebody in the pillars of power, that civil servants at MHCLG and indeed the Treasury advised the Secretary of State that the 5 option was not viable and that he should pick the 3. So we will see what happens when undoubtedly there'll be another Secretary of State. The fact that that Secretary of State, Mr. Reid, spent an undue amount of time at Basildon with the then Labour leader, that is being looked at as well. So I think, as the leader said, we are in for a rocky ride. We're in for things that are going to potentially change. I'm sure there's possibly going to be a delay. The structural change order was due to be laid before Parliament in July. That's now pushed back to December, apparently. So, you know, goodness knows, I think we just need to work with the information that we have in the full knowledge that things may well change, because things are going to change nationally, and very much devolution is on the agenda of Mr. Burnham. So, yeah, there we are. We'll see. Thank you.
Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Durham says so at the backdrop to this quite well, and I think we're all aware that that there is a lot of complexity, political complexity out there currently. I think I can only speak from an officer perspective, and your closing comments, Councillor Durham, are that we can only deal with the information that we currently know, the facts and the position that where we are. On the point of the structural change order, we have spoken to MHCLG officials. They have drafted the order. They are currently, the monitoring officer can confirm this, they're currently drafting the explanatory notes to go with that structural change order. So whether that does get laid before summer recess or not, we won't know. But from an officer perspective, I believe that officers continue to work with the current information available to them, and we will see where the judicial review takes us, and we'll act accordingly, and we'll keep members informed as and when things change or not. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Members, I'm going to move to item 14, and I'm going to ask that we move to exclude the public and press, because item 15, the outline business case for Maldon New Arts and Culture Centre, that this information must be considered in private session as it includes commercially sensitive information. So I will move that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as designed in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act, and this satisfies the public interest test. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stilts. Members, I will.
That we've been sent. It should go there. I think the information on there could have been presented differently, and it could have been discussed openly within this council, and I would like it recorded that I do not support what we're going to discuss at this time, that it goes onto P&C. Thank you.
Your vote will be recorded. So members, I've made a proposal. I have a seconder. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2. In fact, if you could help count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I make it 16. Those against. 1, 2, 3 against. Any abstentions? 1, 2. So that is carried. I ask members. 3. I think that was you, Councillor Stamp. Yeah.
Chairman, I'm just waiting for the...
Back to the live stream, please.
Yes, Chairman, just bear with me, wait for that to be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, the live stream's back on. Thank you very much.
There is no vote at the moment. I don't have a proposal in front of me, Councillor Durham. The idea of the excluding press is so that we can actually look at the numbers within the report. But at this time, it is not for public consumption. Item 16 is resumption of business at 2022. And 17, the outline business case for Maldon New Arts and Culture Centre project. Please note, members, that we cannot discuss items that are contained in the agenda item 15 under this item of business. Leader, could you reintroduce the report, please? Members, just to remind you, it's pages 169 to 302. Sorry, Leader.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to present the outline business case for the design, construction and operation of a new arts and culture centre project, and to seek council approval to progress to a full business case. The obviously recommendations are set out there, and you have little 1 to little 6, which is set out in Appendix 1, or alternatively there is little 7 and 8. I'm not sure, is it back to you, Mr. Skelton, to present the case? Thank you.
Mr. Skelton.
Thank you. Can I ask Tara to bring up the PowerPoint presentation slides, please?
Yes, Chairman, just give me a moment.
Thank you. As I briefly explained, we have undertaken a lot of public engagement to see what the general consensus might be around this scheme. The following presentation is really to show what those results are, and the first 5 or 6 slides, I think, are just a brief overview of the scheme, first of all. So, first slide, please. This indicates the outcome of the public engagement. 463 responses. Strong public support for taking action to secure the future of Maldon Museum, along significant caution about cost scale and impact. The general public have been quite vocal about this scheme, about these proposals. One thing that became clear from it is that doing nothing is not acceptable. Amongst serious concern for the museum itself as a heritage asset and an important asset to the council, to the town and the district, the consensus was that there are other issues at stake and that need to be addressed. Question 5 asked for what the public thought their priorities would be. And at the top of that list was the investment in the museum. The following 4 priorities: flexible community space, gallery and exhibition space, things like education and schools offering events, talks and workshops, all featured strongly in comments and in the data that was presented in the survey. The cafe and the eating space part of it, whilst that did feature, didn't appear to be much of a priority, and there has been a lot of debate about whether or not that should be included in any scheme that we do. There is concern around how that affects the public, the high street and the kiosks and other public eating places within Promenade Park. The main point around the community space and exhibition space, workshops and schools offering, the education offering, is that would be, those things would be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to deliver from the existing museum building. It has severe limitations due to age and layout and is not easily adapted to providing modern 21st century kind of building space that's needed for that sort of event. Next slide, please, Tom. What this project is and what it can achieve. An arts and culture centre, it would be a big community asset. It would be built as totally adaptable, flexible, multi-use space. And support for developing a facility like this runs at 49% of responses. 21% don't know, 30% do not want it built. The new building would be standalone. What that means is that the current museum extension scheme is easily adaptable. We don't have to do a huge amount of work to make this scheme a standalone facility. The building would be developed as a community asset. It's better able to deliver the top priorities referenced in the engagement outcomes. As an extension to the The new building would be inherently identified as such and leaves less space to satisfy the other priorities. That's not to say that the decision might be to build it as an extension, or that the right thing to do would be to build an extension to the existing museum. I think one point I would make is what this project demonstrates is what could be built, not necessarily what should be built. That is down to the council and to a large extent the public perception of what this project is about. The project in this form would see the museum repaired, refurbished as a separate scheme otherwise, and costs, as I've already indicated, would be around £2.7 million, and timing based on where we are now since deferment I would estimate as being around November, December 2028. Either way, the public would like to see something that delivers all of the outcomes that they reference. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the data behind these responses in further slides. Tara, for the next slide, please. Just some notes around further benefits. As we've said, it provides gallery space for arts and cultural events, flexible multi-use community event space. It would be an enhancement to the Promenade Park as an asset. We believe it would enhance the district-wide culture and heritage offering. It would provide event, education and workshop space currently lacking. We would expect it to be done in collaboration with other arts, culture and heritage groups around the district. And indeed, work is being done to look into some of that as part of the engagement. And the existing museum would be improved, it would be retained, and it would be repaired. Next slide, please. Just some visual information. That's a CGI image from the architect, based on the original scheme that was proposed, that was accepted during the Strategic Asset Working Group deliberations, and represents everything that was discussed in those meetings. Next slide. Just a further view. The building would be capable of delivering very high energy efficiency, modern space, clean, open plan. Next slide, please. That's a view from the Secret Garden side. And these images are not fixed. They are a representation of how far the scheme has got so far. There is still an awful lot of design work that would need to be done to bring this project to fruition. Next slide, please, Tara. That is a plan view of the two buildings at ground floor level. And you can see the location, the positioning of that within the grounds of the existing museum. It preserves the existing tree line to the footpath around the Secret Garden area, and the positioning of the existing museum building. Next slide, please. Overview of public engagement responses. Slides 10 to 18. These are the results of the engagement survey which ended on the 26th of June. The main report includes an interim version of that because it was necessary to get the report into the committee system before the engagement had completed. The results I'm about to show you in the next slides are the latest results, the final results from the 26th of June. Slides 19 to 21, some of the comments and quotes from the Culture and Heritage Strategy Public Engagement Survey, and slides 22 to 24, the results of 2 sessions with target groups, culture and heritage engagement sessions on the 24th and 26th of June. So next slide, please, Tara. Overwhelming support, 90% for the action to do something. Majority of concern is, and support is for the future of the Maldon Museum. There are mixed views on the provision of a new arts and culture centre, although a majority support the development of the idea. I think it's 49%, that is in the figures somewhere. The comments indicate broad agreement that the future of the Maldon Museum requires attention, but opinions differ on scale, cost and form of intervention. So there is still a lot of different ideas around what Maldon residents want. No single option has emerged as a clear preference. Concern around impacts on current cultural facilities and transparency around information on costs, funding and impacts when considering next steps. Next slide. This is the 90% response for awareness. So were people aware of what the Maldon Museum was about and its offering before starting the survey? 90% said yes. Next slide. I think the two key figures here are do something and prioritise the museum, building repairs and investment. And option 2B, do something, explore the development of an arts and culture centre, and 50-50 in terms of what people actually want from that. So you can see just how finely balanced this is. How concerned are you about the museum potentially closing if nothing is done? And a majority say yes, they would be very concerned. I would add at this point that it is not the intention to close the museum. It's just that if no decision is made on this and the existing museum is just left to run as it is, I think it seems to me that it would not have a future. It looks dilapidated, it's dated. I would argue that it's not fit for the 21st century in terms of an asset, but it does answer to a lot of people's perception around the culture and heritage of Maldon, and that's understandable. Next slide, please. Very concerned. Sorry, we've just done that one. Next slide, please. Question 4. And I think this is an interesting one. Do you support the development of an arts and culture centre? And 48% of respondents said yes. 30% said no, 21% don't know. If you were to split that 21% 50-50, you would still have a majority. But it would be fair to say that, again, there is no strong consensus on this. Next slide, please, Tara. What should be the top priorities if the council proceeds? And it's clear that repairs and investment to keep the museum usable is at the top of the agenda on that one. And I come back to the next 4, and that was in my first or second slide in this presentation, that the next 4 priorities could not be delivered from the existing building. So if we were to take notice of residents and visitors to whoever has responded to this survey, then flexible community space, exhibition space, education and schools offering events, talks and workshops are really important requirements for them. Cafe and covered eating space less so, and a range of other priorities which range from things like swimming pool and Lidos to other things. Next slide, please. Biggest concerns: costs and value for money, impact on parks, views, scale design. A lot of detail inside this. these questions, I won't spend too much time on them, but if anybody has got any questions about any of them, I'm happy to answer. Next slide, please, Tara. What would increase your confidence in the do something option? And again, it's just about more information about costs and funding, what the community benefits would be, and particularly around timescales. Next slide. This section is the final question in the survey, and it was free text for people to write comments in. The word salad just gives an indication of the sort of things that crop up. And some of the last responses that came in were what will happen to the Maldon Centre if this goes ahead. The museum is outdated, and I would agree that potentially some investment is needed. The project, whatever it is, would not displace any existing assets. It was never the intention that it would be built or developed at cost to other assets, either within the park or the town. It would be complementary to them and would be developed in collaboration with them. That is the expectation, that's the intention, that's how we would develop this project. The next two slides, please. Next slide. This is the Maldon District Culture and Heritage Strategy Survey comments. And this was a survey undertaken by Culture and Heritage as part of Leander's work. These are just some of the comments that were made at that time around arts hubs, exhibition space, and sort of things that this project would probably help to deliver. And the following slide, please, Tara. It's just simply more references from that same survey. And I think this is an interesting one. There is huge potential to lift the quality of cultural events in the area if there is a growing community of creatives locally. If they had a structure to help them work collaborative with each other, businesses and local organisations, and I think this new Arts and Culture Centre would be a focus for that work. Next slide. Further data from that, and next slide. These were the questions for the two target groups that attended on the 24th and 26th of June. And the answers in the following slide, please, Tara. Feedback from the 24th of June. General consensus of a need for larger flexible space. Group feedback was considerable. It was emotive. Need space for larger gatherings. There was more concern for the future of the museum than any other consideration. This is understandable as the group was generally interested in improving interpretation of the district's heritage. Maldon Centre concerns as well. And as I've said, none of this would be displaced by this new project. Next slide, please, Tara. Very similar feedback from the 24th of June, so I won't dwell on that. Final slide, conclusion. I think it demonstrates clear public support for safeguarding the museum, but there's no consensus on the scale or form of development. I think that's something that, as officers, we would help the council to discover that brief and find the answer to the question, what is it that you want this project to deliver? What is it that, what is this project about, and who is it to serve? And I don't think we have a clear answer on that yet. Scale and form has been provided within MDC in the form of concepts and scheme ideas to date. The survey didn't reference that work, but it was already in the public domain from the 26th of March committee meeting. So the public have seen some of these ideas. They've seen the concept drawings. Support is strongest for proposals that prioritise the museum, that protect the heritage and parkland, that explain costs and funding and deliver tangible community benefit. As I've said before, I'll say again, the current form of the museum cannot physically deliver all the stated benefits. And finally, more work does need to be done to assess the purpose and nature of this project, and that would be done through community engagement as well. So if this project were to be approved, we would continue this public engagement. That would inform the design process. It would inform the nature of this project and what it's about, what it is to deliver. I haven't been through any of the report pages, but I'm happy to do that if it helps any further understanding of what the project is. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I found that quite informative. Thank you very much. Members, I'm not going to put the recommendations until we've had at least some debate. There's a lot of recommendations and there's sort of this or that. So could I open the debate with asking Councillor Durham? I think you're first. I've got Councillor Durham, Councillor Cyril, Beryl Cook and Nick Spenceley. So I'll start with Councillor Durham.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, look, clearly I support arts and culture, particularly in Maldon. I was the Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture for 2 years at County Council, and I remain a board member of Arts Council, England South East Board. I also sat on Museum Essex, which is the body that... I'm sorry, which is the Museums Essex, which is the body that the other museums, all the museums look at. But look, it's crazy if we are considering putting this authority into debt for the first time for this building or using reserves. We know we're round the corner from LGR. We don't know who our partner, but our partner is likely to be Chelmsford, and they have an absolute wealth of cultural venues, the Chelmsford Theatre and Studio, Highlands Park, Radio 2 in the Park, 35,000 people last year, plus a myriad of other venues in the other authorities that we're likely to get put with. And in terms of the public consultation, if you say to anybody, oh, would you like something that they haven't got? Of course they're going to say yes. You know, I'm sorry, but that is the way that things work. In summer of last year, I was part of an LGA peer review group. We were sent to Surrey, to Epsom, specifically to look at their museum, which was in a much more modern building. In fact, it was shaped like a spaceship, and had the library and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And part of that peer review was to look at why nobody went to that museum. And it's because there was very little relevance. And bear in mind that Epsom had Epsom Downs racecourse with hundreds of years of heritage. It also had a huge collection of Roman coins and gold coins and all sorts of various bits and pieces, and a Roman diorama. We carried out a public consultation face to face, and somebody actually said, well, it's a bit like a museum of a museum. And I thought, blimey, I hope they don't go to Maldon, because that really is a museum of a museum. And I love Maldon Library. Maldon Museum. I used to go to it when it was above what was Paparazzi on the first floor. But a museum about a place without a specific topic is just not viable these days. We already have the Museum of Power. We already have the Combined Services Museum. We already have Stowe Murray's Museum, not to mention our museum, and the Muldoon Centre has been mentioned. You know, I fully supporting Maldon Museum and modernising it, but not in a new building that is going to need the best part of £3 million worth of debt for this authority in what could be its final year in existence. It just doesn't make sense when we're going to be amalgamated into other authorities that may well have these facilities already built, shovel ready. So yes, I fully accept its merits, but on the basis that this is something we should have done 10 years ago, now is not the time to do it, and we certainly should not be imposing debt on this authority for the residents to bear. So absolutely, I cannot support this, this going any further forward. Let's look at it, or let the new unitary look at it when we know what we've got and where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durham. Mr. Skelton, did you need to come back? Anything that Councillor Durham said?
I would just say that I think what you've explained there, Councillor, is exactly where we are, that we don't really know what it is that the council wants to deliver with this. I will repeat that extending the existing museum can be done, but when Strategic Asset Working Group chose the third option of the concept designs, that was the largest option, and the reason for that was to give more space at that time to extend the museum. There's very little that realistically can be done with that Edwardian building to improve it. It can be redecorated, it can be repaired, but trying to modernise it to present artefacts in a modern setting, and more of them, would be extremely difficult. Part of the existing structure is dilapidated and is badly affected by some of the trees, and that will over time only get worse. So yes, I understand your point, but that is just to give you an alternative view.
Very briefly, I mean, one of the things I was previously working at with the refurbishment of Clacton Library was to move the Clacton Museum, to relocate the Clacton Museum, which was had its similarities in that they were artifacts relevant to Clacton, if you like. They then now will have display stands in the library. So, you know, I think there are more than one way to skin a cat here.
Councillor
Siddle. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Skelton, for all the work that you've done on this project and for the clarity that you've given this project. And part of the issue and part of the problem with this was last year there was no clarity, and the Strategic Asset Working Group was in a very difficult position in terms of making this decision. And it's only through the work and having this detail that we've now got that clarity. When this first, we know as Councillor Drummond said, this has been around for a long time. In fact, one officer presented an image from about 12 years ago at the Strategic Asset Working Group of a potential extension to the museum, which never got developed. And one of the things that we talked about was we do need to do something with that building, because at the moment that building is not fit for purpose. So no matter what we do need to do something with the museum building. Otherwise it's just going to disintegrate, and we need to put that investment in. So when the initial ideas came to the Strategic Asset Working Group last year, we were presented with 3 proposals. One was around about 700,000, one was about 1 million, and one was 1.5 million. So we went, well, okay, let's go for the biggest, because it's 1.5 million, and we may as well do something that's worthwhile and provides a space. It subsequently evolved when we got that detail that we're going up to nearly 3 million. And at this particular moment in time, I don't think we can justify that, and I think there's better ways of spending. If we are going to spend £3 million, there's better ways of spending £3 million in terms of projects and in terms of things across the district. It's great that we've done some kind of survey. However, if you look at it, there's around about 70,000 people who live in the district, and 232 people have said yes. So we haven't done enough of that consultation, and we need, if we're going to do this, we need to do a proper consultation. And it's great that we stopped it and did some consultation, but we can't, as far as I can see, we can't justify this. What we need to do is focus on getting, spending that money on the existing building. Even spending £330,000, sorry, on a business case, to me is not acceptable. We could spend £300,000, sort the building out, and then move on and look at other things in terms of projects, and using, if we're going to use our money, use it in a much more worthwhile way.
Councillor Barrowcock.
Thank you, Chair. The current proposal for the Arts and Cultural Centre next door to the museum has understandably prompted huge amount of debate, and a lot of the heritage groups that I work with have spoken to me, particularly regarding its proposed location and the significant level of investment and borrowing required. It is entirely reasonable for residents to question whether this specific scheme represents the right project in the right place and good value for money. However, supporting essential works in the museum in the park whilst rejecting current proposals should not mean rejecting the ambition of an arts and cultural centre in Maldon altogether. Investment in arts and culture has repeatedly transformed towns and cities, creating jobs, attracting visitors, supporting local business and improving community well-being. Rather than abandoning the vision, we should explore alternative locations. There may be potential with LGR for other buildings owned by Essex County Council, for example, to develop a new feasibility study and proposal supported by external funding from organisations such as Arts Council England, the National Lottery Heritage Fund, charitable trusts and private sector partners, reducing the burden on local taxpayers. Arts Council England have said Maldon has high need and low opportunity. There are many successful examples. Margate's Turner Contemporary has helped regenerate a town, attracting millions of visitors and significant private investment. Hull's Year, a city of culture, generated hundreds of millions of pounds for the local economy, whilst boosting civic pride and tourism. Wakefield's Hepworth Gallery and Folkestone's Creative Quarter have similarly driven regeneration, encouraged new businesses and strengthened local economies. The benefits extend beyond economics. Arts and culture improve mental well-being, reduce social isolation, inspire young people, support education, encourage volunteering and create stronger, more connected communities. Let us not forget that many members have areas of deprivation within their own communities and wards. The question should not be whether Maldon should have an arts and cultural centre, but how it can be delivered in the right location, at the right scale and with the greatest possible partnership funding. The current proposal may not be the right solution, but the vision itself remains one worth pursuing. And I'd like members to consider that if they were minded to choose the or on little 7 and little 8, perhaps a little 9 should be included that supports a new feasibility study and proposal seeking an alternative place for an arts and cultural centre, with funding being sought externally through Arts Council England, National Lottery Heritage Funds and partnership working. I think that should really be considered. Thank you.
Councillor Barrowcock, is that a proposal for an addition?
It is a proposal for an additional little.
Councillor Fluker has seconded it. A flurry of hands have accepted it, but Councillor Fluker, I think, was first.
Councillor Drive wants to speak.
I have a list. No. Councillor Spencer, Nick Spencer, I think I've got next.
Thank you, Chair.
How much is that in the Chairman's fund?
I support investment in arts, culture, heritage and environment as per our strategy, and that would include use of reserves and potentially it could include borrowing for the right kind of project. When I wrote local history articles for Nub News, the museum was a fertile source of quirky little stories, and there's some great stuff in there and some very dedicated volunteers, but I guess the question I had from Mr. Skelton, which I think he's probably answered, is what on earth, after we've made it weatherproof and done basic refurbishment, what can we do with the current museum building that's still relevant to it being a museum? That's the part of the picture that wasn't really clear to me, because it's got those narrow corridors and staircases, half turns and odd steps up and down. I'm struggling to see how that still, once we've spent money on preserving the building, what else can we do that would make it relevant to this project?
Mr. Skelton, have you got an answer for that?
I would say, unfortunately, not a great deal. One of the big problems with the building is its inaccessibility above ground floor. It wouldn't be practical to put a lift in it without extending. You wouldn't be able to do it without extending the building. The upstairs rooms, the first floor rooms, are on different levels. Some of the work that we did with the feasibility study was to see how much of the building we could open out. And at first floor level, it is possible to open out some of the rear areas a little bit, but all that does is improve the efficiency of that space being used for storage. And that's about as far as we could go with it, in all honesty. So, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Hughes. Sorry, Emma.
Sorry, Councillor Hughes isn't here today. I've just realised this. Thank you. Right, I just need to tick things off that have already been said. I think going back to the survey, we don't really know who we surveyed. It's a very, very tiny number of people, and we didn't capture where they were from. So they could be from Aberdeen for all we know. I don't think that's very likely, but we don't know who they're from. It was run for an extremely short time, too short to get it into paper medium. I run a magazine, and because you have long lead times on a paper magazine, I couldn't put it in. So I think there's a host of people who therefore will have had no idea that this survey was going on. And I really think for something like this, and with such a high level of spend, we need to be talking to far more than just that tiny population. Of the focus groups, I think in the first one there were 10 groups consulted, 2 of which were not in Maldon town. And the second one, there were 16, 3 of which were not in Maldon town. I'm absolutely delighted to hear that one of them was Tollesbury, which is amazing, but they, the majority were not from Maldon town. And, not even half were not from Maldon town. I agree with Councillor Burrell-Cook that I support the vision. Absolutely, I'd like an arts centre, but I don't think it should be based on this building. I think the entire collection could be put elsewhere. It could go in the foyer here, for example, and everyone that comes to these offices might see it on just in passing. This might not be their destination, but I think more people might see it. Some of it could go in the Muldoon Centre sometimes for exhibition purposes. It would then be on the high street. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that building, I don't think we should be doing anything with that building. It's not fit for people to work in. It's not fit for a museum collection. I think we should put the collection and the people who volunteer in there elsewhere. I don't know what we can do with that building, but it isn't suitable for a museum, and even extended, it just isn't the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. I don't know why, but it was strange. Where are we up to? Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with a lot that's been said tonight, and I actually remember sitting on that working group with a couple of other councillors that are here and saying what we actually wanted was something, an extension to the museum to improve the accessibility and what was kept in that museum. What we were presented with was the idea that we were going to have a building that was bolted onto that museum. What we got told was we couldn't have it. At no point did we discuss an arts and cultural centre, although I do agree with Councillor Burrell-Cook that one would benefit this town, and where it was put, or this district where it was put, is down to discussion. The museum has had many, many homes in Maldon over the years, above little shops that have been even worse than the museum that they're in now. There are a lot of artefacts that relate to the museum. There's the old fire engine in there. These artefacts are getting damaged by that museum. So I agree that something should be done with it. I don't agree with what has been proposed, and I will not support that. But I do agree that we should be doing something to enhance that museum. And it's called the Museum in the Park for a reason.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens? Did you want to come back or something?
I would just like to say it didn't used to be called the Museum in the Park. Somebody has renamed it, but that doesn't mean it can't be renamed again. Thank you.
Councillor Driver.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was interesting to note Councillor Durham's effusive comments about all the cultural activities in Chelmsford, and therefore we don't need them in Maldon, which I thought was slightly sad, because I think we do. I think also the issue about borrowing is a red herring. I think if it's right and there are grounds for it, then it's entirely appropriate to borrow. Not in all circumstances, but actually nearly all of us will have borrowed for a house. So sometimes it's entirely appropriate to borrow. And I don't think it's about actually presenting it as if we are handing over to the residents of Maldon this huge, weighty thing that actually we've landed them with. What we would give them, if we were to do this, would be a cultural centre, potentially. Now, having said all that, I recognise we've got significant concerns about this particular building. When we started this, and we started it because actually we were in a position where actually we knew we had some significant reserves, and we were looking to see whether there were things that we could do while we were still a council to be able to support the residents of this district. And that's where we started on this road. The museum came forward, and then it expanded its ideas, and a cultural centre was considered. So I think it has been considered from the outset. And one of the things about it was that actually the museum itself was falling down. So actually some sort of centre separate to it, which actually had a huge amount of flexibility, might be something that could work. However, and there is an issue for us all, and we're hearing it tonight, the clarity about what it is we're trying to deliver is not sufficiently clear. And that's partly why we've been going around the houses, because I think the concept is actually a good one, and actually I think it's quite straightforward as to what you might put in it. But actually it's not about one person's view, it's about getting a collective view, not just within here, but actually the residents as well. If they're not clear what it is they're getting, then you can understand why they are reticent. So I think it's going to be difficult to actually agree to this. However, I absolutely agree with Councillor Burrell's comment that this is something that we need to embrace in terms of some sort of centre. And whether it's here or somewhere else, actually, we've got something on the table here. I don't know whether there is a time scale that allows us to work this up so that there is clarity or not, as the case may be. If there was clarity, then we might all find this easier, as would residents, and would give us more time to go out to them. If actually doing that work, we can't get that clarity, well, that tells you what you need to know about its location. So I can't see how we can go ahead with what we've got here, but I do wonder whether we've still got a window in which actually we could try and clarify more what we want to try and achieve, and might enable us to go out and see if there are other partners who actually might get on board. Because if we're putting some money up, then often it's a leverage for others to put money up. A lot easier doing it that way round than going out to people if you're not putting something on the table at the same time. Thank you.
Did you say you looked as though you wanted to come back, Mr. Skelton? Why? Yeah, please.
Interesting. Just two things. Location aside, and just hypothesising here, if this new building were to be built, what we've shown in the drawings that have been done to date is basically an empty building. It would have all of the infrastructure needed to fit it out, but as a large empty space that you could turn that space into almost anything you wanted to do. So if you wanted to put a cafe into it, you could do. If you wanted to use it for museum artifacts, you could do. Workshop space, whatever it is. The whole point of this design is that it's 100% flexible. It's empty space. The second thing I wanted to just address was a little around the cost that's being put forward. The biggest risk in almost anything is always uncertainty. In construction, that couldn't be more true. These costs would be refined and reiterated at every design stage. I would expect those costs to reduce over time because we would have more certainty about what's being designed, what's being built, and what the competitive markets can give us. So 2.7 million might sound like a lot of money, and it is, but it includes a lot of risk. It includes a lot of risk because at this time there's an awful lot of uncertainty. So those were the 2 points I just wanted to make.
Thank you. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's a shame really because there's obviously a will by the survey for the museum to be improved somewhat, and it started off with an extension, as Councillor Stilt said, to the museum. I'd just like to point out a lot has been made about the actual sample size, but if you were to look at the sample size and look at the confidence level that sample size would create, then it gives a 95% confidence level that would be an accurate reflection of what people want. Out of 68,000, between 370 and 385 would be a 95% confidence level. But that aside, I think that we're almost leaving ourselves in a position where we're deciding for managed decline, as Councillor Durham said, is that basically by doing nothing, it's managed decline. We're just going to let it fall to ruin. I don't think it's personally appropriate. I've spoken to the volunteers there when I went to have a look at it and see what it was like, and it's not accessible. If we leave it as it's, and even we do major refurbishment, I don't think it's going to have a longevity because it's not accessible. So we're going to have to expand it in some way, shape or form for it to be there in the future. Because whilst we're here and we're sort of not too concerned about it, shall we say, a unitary might come in and say, well, actually, we're not going to keep maintaining this. Only half of it can be used. It would need to be expanded. We're just going to shut it down. So we have a responsibility to the residents to make sure we protect our assets and think forward, as opposed to just think, well, we've got this money, we can't spend it under any circumstances, and or we can't borrow money. Because at the end of the day, when you look at the way government structures the ability for councils to borrow money, they have a discounted rate that basically reflects the social value of spending money at this point in time. So the government and most local authorities will be looking at the social value, which is very different to the hurdles that a private organisation would put forward in terms of cost return. So if we think about it in terms of the social value, really I think what the officers are saying is that we can create an opportunity where we can provide some kind of social value in the future by investing in space that could be used in a flexible way for the residents. The alternative to that is to not do anything and to leave us with no space and no options for social value in the future. So I think it's a difficult balance. We tend to look at things in terms of, well, is it worth it? Well, I don't know. I guess it's with all of these things, and it was reflected on by, I think, Mr. Driver. It depends upon our vision, doesn't it? You know, and if we're just going to say, well, we've got the money in the bank, we're not going to spend it because it's convenient, I'd have to answer any awkward questions to residents, we won't spend any money and we won't be thinking forward and investing in the future. So I think we need more information. I think we've got a situation where we've got half an idea in terms of the Arts and Culture Centre, and I'm not convinced that there is an absolute demand for it. I'm not convinced there's not an absolute demand, the reverse. I think we need to do more research, and perhaps it's a case of going away and doing more research and deferring a full business case until we've got this full research in place and we can make a proposition. The danger will be we leave it too long and we give ourselves no choice but to do anything except manage the decline of the facilities that we've got because we weren't bold enough or brave enough to make decisions at this point in time. So I don't know where we go from this here.
I have Councillor Fluker, Councillor Hayward, and then Councillor Durham wants to come back. Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The first thing that attracted my attention on this was paragraph 3.9, the financial case, where it clearly says that we will be required to borrow 2.71 million. at a rate of 5% paid back over 25 years. So that burdens any new local authority with a substantial debt and a substantial debt repayment. But Chairman, the other thing that I find interesting, and can I just say that until I looked at their website just now, I hadn't realised that I've actually been involved with some projects which Stace have been involved in the background. So I thought I didn't deal with them direct, but I thought I'd best just say that. And I would say that they are a very good company as far as I understand. And I suggest that with their project costs would be bang on. They put 4.6% contingency in there, which I think is a bit on the low side. I also think 2.7 million to deliver this is a little bit on the low side. But the thing that really concerns me about this is paragraph 3.3. I can't believe that Stace would have agreed to that timeline, because you've got the complete design process is March 2027. You can't go to the market until you've got your complete design to tender. And because of the size of this project, you're going to have to go to the EU Journal or the equivalent to tender. And that tender process, I would have thought, is going to take 6 months. But that would only give 8 weeks to start the project, which is just not feasible. I mean, we're working on the project at the moment, Chairman, where we're only doing the bill of quantities, which we got involved in the project 2 years ago. And that's how long it's actually got to get to that stage. So I'm afraid, from the business point of view, 3.3 to me sounds a lot of alarm bells as to when this project could be completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hayward.
I will stand up. I've not done this before. Right, I'm actually quite passionate about the building in itself. I think I've been on the working group a couple of times when we've been talking about it, and obviously I'm now on that working group. And I've done this before. All right, I've done a building, I said it in the working group. I've actually worked on a building within Mayland with a group of people, and we have actually managed to raise it from being a dilapidated building into a lovely building that can be used. It's doable. The museum is doable. If we've got the money there, there's no reason why we cannot make it back into a decent museum again. I think a little extension on the side or something in the ground, like Councillor Stilt was saying, I think is absolutely a practical idea. There's no reason why not. I've worked on like this building I worked on, the floors were falling through, there was woodworm here, there was windows coming out, there was lots going wrong with it. It is now a substantial building, so I think the building can be preserved. We want a legacy. That was the idea. The idea was to leave a legacy for Maldon. So what do we want in the future? Because what we're going to get, and I've said this in the meeting, we'll just have Harris fencing right the way around that, and we will just let it rot and ruin, and it will just fall down. So we've got to make that decision. Are we going to preserve it and do something with it? I would rather see something done than nothing done. And I couldn't leave it like that. I'd feel very disappointed in myself if I left it like that. So I would like to see something done to the building, it redone, and a little extension. I'm sure that can be done on the side. And I do agree with Councillor Barraclough as well. I think there is other buildings and better buildings around where we could have an arts and culture centre, which is already built. We don't have to build it, so you just put the thing inside it. Much easier. Thank you.
Councillor Durham, could you?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'll be very brief, and I just think I'm surprised that Councillor Stamp hasn't said we want in the Dengie. And actually, you could argue that would be more sensible. But just Chairman, just very quickly, Councillor Siddle hit the name on the head. This started off for the right reasons, and then, as these things generally do, they grow by topsy. And before you know it, £1 million project becomes 3 million, and then before it's built, it becomes 4 million. But somebody once said, "If you build it, they will come," but they don't. And I'm afraid, you know, the Lightbox in Woking, which is an arts and cultural centre, is at the point of financial failure, and I've been there to look at it. The Turner Contemporary loses getting on for a 7-figure deficit. First Sight Gallery, I was a non-executive director of First Sight Gallery in Colchester, which was Museum of the Year in 2021. Arts Council England put in £850,000 a year, and between Essex and Colchester Borough Councils, they put in £200,000 a year, and it still runs to £250,000 deficit a year, because they just are not enough, and that has cafes and that has a cinema. You've just got to have the revenue generating things in the arts centre to let it wash their faces. And unfortunately, you know, putting on arts and cultural events, you really struggle to generate enough income. So, you know, I'd love something in Maldon. The councillor driver, you know, of course I mentioned Chelmsford because the things are already there. I would love there to be something in Maldon. I love Maldon. I lived here all my life. But I just think what is viable and what isn't viable, and do we really want to be putting not onto a future council having to bail it out annually with grants just to keep it, because that is what would inevitably happen. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Stamp, Councillor Siddle-Norman, and then perhaps we could draw a line and actually move the recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Could I just actually ask for Councillor Burrell-Cook's proposal to be read out again? I did hear it at the beginning, but I'd like a little bit more detail. I support what Councillor Linda Hayward has said. I think, and Councillor Siddle, he was absolutely right. It has morphed into something huge that it never ever was. Something needs to be done with the museum. I don't support spending, it will be more than 2.7 million. We know it always will, and I don't agree with the optimism shared by Jonathan, even though I think he's an absolute excellent officer. I would like to know what Councillor Stevens said about, because it's 0.67 residents actually replied to that, so I've been told 489 out of over 67,000, where they lived. Did anybody come out to Burnham? We have a museum. Why aren't we investing in our museum in Burnham? Why aren't we investing in other museums? Why yet again is everything going on the prom? I do agree we need to do something, but I don't think we should be going into debt to be able to do it. And I've said that all along, so it's nothing surprising. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scow. Councillor Siddle-Norman.
Yes, thank you very much. Obviously, Burnham's got a museum. I know very well because I actually did the accounts there for many years. I know people like museums. I go to them myself. In fact, I've been all over the country to museums. But they all tell me the same. We didn't have many people here today. Now, I understand that the museum here needs some renovation. I mean, I think that any old building needs to be looked after, and I'm quite happy to spend money on that. But the issue is this: do we want, as a district, to spend that amount of money on leisure when there's so many other things that we want in this district? Affordable housing is one of them. But however, I do understand that Maldon wants people to come to Maldon, and they do. In droves, actually, strangely enough. We also need them in Burnham. What actually could this council give Burnham to bring more people to Burnham? I think the question tonight is that amount of money is, to my mind, a very, very stupid thing for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, could you just remind us of what your proposal was?
I'm just going to make another declaration of interest that I am the chair of the Maldon Festival, which puts on music, arts and cultural events over the town, and over 50 events this year, with lots of support. But the proposal that I proposed was an additional little 9 that supports a new feasibility study to seek an alternative place for an arts and cultural centre, with funding being sought from external sources as much as, from Arts Council England, National Lottery Heritage, and partnership working to reduce the burden on the taxpayer. And that would be the little, so it doesn't detract from little 8, which is the subject of the approval. Members consider and agree for officers to bring an outline business case for the renovation of the Maldon Museum back to the council for consideration. And that, in addition to after the or, basically. Absolutely.
Yeah, Councillor Fluker has seconded it twice. Now, members, I think we've had a healthy debate, and I can't see anybody else straining to contribute. Now, Councillor Paula Spenceley.
Okay, so we've had a long discussion in here, and I absolutely agree with Councillor Burrell-Cook about the need for arts and culture. I kept the Maldon Festival going for 2 years on my own with no support from anybody. And we got it back, and that's thanks to Councillor Burrell-Cook, and I acknowledge that. However, and I'm being honest, are we really going to get, you know, it would require substantial investment for us to get, I mean, it's great we should aim to get something else in the time that we've got. I think when we can't even make a decision about this tonight, I'm a little bit dubious about whether that, in reality, that would actually ever happen. So I think we've got to make a decision. I think it's very hard for us to do so because we don't have everything that everybody said. We can't be sure it's what the residents want. It is a substantial amount of money, but I think we've got to make a decision about whether we go ahead and support a smaller project, as in the recommendations tonight, or whether we go for the full thing. And that's a hard decision, but if we don't make it now, we're just kicking the can down the road. So I think we just need to get on and make that decision, hard as it is, because I think years and years of making no decision at all and neglect of our assets has led us to where we are tonight. Thank you.
So, members, shall we vote on each recommendation in turn? There are going to be 9 of them, bearing in mind that the first 6 are dependent on each other and the final 3 are dependent on each other, although one of them may stand alone. Is that the way to do it? Everybody happy? So I'll read out item little 1, that the council approves the outline business case at Appendix 1 for the new Arts and Culture Centre project. All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. I think that's unanimous with me abstaining. Anybody against? So that has failed. Now, does that mean that the rest of the items fail, I think, doesn't it? Yeah, because all the rest of them up until little 6 are dependent on little 1 being approved. So I will move to item 7, that the council does not approve to take this project forward and officers do no further work on this. All those in favour, please show. I need some help with counting because I'm not good. Are you 4? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I make that 18. 18 for. Those against? None. Any abstentions? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is carried. Now I am confused, Miss Holmes, because does little 8 still apply? Yes. Good, thank you. Subject to the approval of 7, which we have approved, members consider and agree for officers bring an outline business case for the renovation of the Maldon Museum back to the council for consideration. All those in favour? Councillor Fluker.
Too late to propose an amendment to that, because I really do think we should have a definitive timeline for officers to bring back that report. And I would suggest, Chairman, allowing for what we now have, the summer recess, it should be September meeting at council. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Councillor Hayward has seconded it. So with that, shall we just vote on the amendment that it has to be brought back for? Now, I need. We've agreed that recommendation, so we
can't amend that rec because that's already been voted on.
I think we could, if we leave the rec as it is, but we've got the LDP coming to September as the LDP committee, so I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So I think leave it as we'll bring it up as first available opportunity. Officers will note that, but not to change the recommendation.
If you'd like to tell Councillor Fluker what you've just suggested.
Thank you. The recommendation has already been seconded. What I would suggest is we'll vote on it as it is, but officers will take it away and we'll bring it back at the next available committee. At the moment on the agenda for September is a review of the LDP, so that's obviously going to be quite a big agenda item, and I can't comment as to whether the officers will have the time to do that, but we will bring it back as soon as possible with those options.
Councillor Fluker, are you content with that explanation?
Chairman, no, not, because, you know, everybody says this has been going on for a long, long time. I think members, you know, the clock is ticking. And, you know, I think officers should. And the other thing, Chairman, I'm enormously concerned in relation to the voting on the first 6 items. My view is it was just far too premature to bring this item here this evening.
Your point is noted, Councillor Fluker, but I'm now at a loss as because we have a proposal.
We need to vote on 8.
Chairman, I think the monitoring officer, Chairman, if it helps you, I think the monitoring officer, and I think everybody's heard my proposal, and I'll withdraw it because the members, the officers have heard it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That will be useful. Councillor Burrell-Cook.
I need to amend my proposal to allow for scope of a timeline, that I'm happy to amend my proposal if it helps.
I'm happy with them as they are.
I think we leave them. Yes, I think that's right. We leave them as they are.
Officers have heard.
So, subject to approval. I'm now on little 8. Councillor Stanley.
Sorry, Chairman, I know it's difficult, but I support Councillor Burrell-Cook's proposal to a certain extent. We've got no cost associated with the business case coming forward. No. So we need to know, as far as I'm concerned, and does the amendment go now before this proposal? Or is it just going to be tagged in?
8.
Yeah, I know.
8, which is for officers to bring back an outline business case for the renovation of the Maldon Museum. Yeah. That's not, we haven't an amendment. What we have is a little 9, which is Councillor Burrell-Cook's. Yeah? We agreed? Yeah, we agree. We're now looking at little 8, yeah, which is the recommendation for officers to bring an outline business case for the renovation of the Maldon Museum. Are you happy with me doing that? All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I don't think there's... Could I just see if there's anybody against, then I can say it was unanimous, except for me, who's abstained. He's a big bumble. Hello, friend, he's fine. He's just looking for a little drop of sugar. It's a bumble. It's a big bumble. So, little 8 is carried, and we are now left with item 9. Did you want to amend your... You're going to leave it as it is? Will someone help me here and read it out, please?
Is it Tara?
I think Miss Holmes has it in front of her. It's a big bumble, and if you don't whack it, it'll be fine. Please, yes, please. Members, please.
Right, the proposal, so little 9 is that, it's the words from Councillor Burrell-Cook, that a new feasibility study and proposal be supported, seeking an alternative place for an arts and culture centre, with funding being sought externally through Arts Council England, National Lottery Heritage Funds and partnership working.
All those in favour, please show. And I think, hang on, no. 1, 2, 3 on the top table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
I've got 18.
We'll do it again. Please show again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You're saying 18. 18. Those against?
Can I say it's because there's no costing, that's all. I think
Yeah.
it's great, but there's
One.
no costing.
Those against? 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, no
4.
price.
4 against. Any abstentions? Only myself. So that is carried, members. Thank you. That was a useful debate. We do have an item of urgent business. There is just one item which I have agreed to be brought forward in order to appoint the vacancy of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee prior to its meeting on the 30th of July 2026. The Director of Legal and Governance report was circulated on the supplementary pack sent out on Tuesday. So this urgent item of business is found on pages 3 to 4 of the supplementary pack. Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So it's appointment to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The purpose of the report is to appoint a non-aligned member to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the remainder of the municipal year, following the resignation of Councillor Bell from this committee. This matter is brought forward for consideration with the agreement of the Chair, as notification of Councillor Bell's resignation was received on the 29th of June 2026 after the agenda had been published. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee is next due to meet on the 30th of July 2026, and the next meeting of the Council is not until the 10th of September 2026. So appointing a councillor to this vacancy will ensure that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is fully constituted in time for its next meeting. So obviously the key issues following the appointment of members of the statutory annual meeting of the Council on the 14th of May to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Bell has advised the monitoring officer that she wishes to resign from this position.
Do I have a nomination? Councillor Barrowcook?
Could I propose Councillor Lay?
Seconded.
Well, he's the only other non-aligned.
Nominate, but we do need to ask. Yeah. Well, we are short of candidates, I think. Members, it's been proposed by Councillor Barrowcook. Members, please. Councillor Barrowcook has proposed that. Councillor Lay. Councillor Fluker, I think you seconded that, or did I? Well, yes. Is that okay for him, subject to his agreement?
Yeah.
Members, do we agree by assent?
Agreed.
I felt that you wanted to go home somehow. Is that right? Item 19, members, is the closure of the meeting, and I close the meeting. It says here 21:37. Thank you for your time. I therefore close the meeting. Good night. Welcome.